Hi, I'm Fox.
And I'm Zoe.
And we were going to review Knives Out, but you know what? We did your one better. Hi everyone, Knives Out. Probably the best movie we've watched for this podcast.
I would say so. It's 2 hours, and we've ragged on like longer movie lengths before and like feeling it. We were so deeply engrossed. I think this was very close to Mad Max Fury Road for us in terms of how much we enjoyed and how engrossed we were in watching it. I think I think it's slightly above Mad Max because there was a period right in the middle of Mad Max where it kind of slowed and dipped, and then it got right back up. But Knives Out kept our attention the entire time.
It did. It was a smooth watch. It kept you engrossed. It did not make you wonder, why are they spending time on this? Every little bit, I mean, it really added to the story one way or another.
Yeah, and it's intricate, but it's not complicated. And that's a fine fucking thread to walk. Like, it's got moving parts. It's got things that fit together, and it's got reactions that you can kind of trace back from the start to the very beginning at any point when you're watching the movie. But it's not the amount of things that happen. It's not that much.
It's not overwhelming.
Yeah. And I think that really works for a mystery story, especially a mystery story that has to be this short. Like, mystery stories in like a full season of a television show, you can be complicated. You can be overwhelming because you have the time to go through every bit of it. You know, same goes for a miniseries, but like just a movie, you know, and not, also of course like books and whatnot also fit into that same reason. But like a movie, especially like a movie that isn't 3 hours, like that is a lot harder to do because you're not just doing the mystery, you're doing the setup and payoff of the mystery, which especially in a genre like this, the last 30 minutes or so is the payoff. You've already cut 30 minutes. You cut out an eighth of the movie right then. No, not eighth. A quarter.
I would never have called that. I don't know fractions.
It's okay.
I don't know numbers.
So you've already cut out a quarter of the movie just having the payoff. And you have to spend like 15-20 minutes at the beginning, you know, setting all the information up and like, you know, getting things in place before the murder is even, you know, happened. Though Knives Out, it does go a little bit quicker. You know about the murder pretty much immediately. And then it's just like, what's the context of the murder is the next 20 minutes or so. And so you've got like a chunk of this movie, you got 2 chunks of this movie already reserved for things that aren't the mystery. So you've got less time than you think to pull this off. And it works really, really well. I think they did a lot by having a smaller amount of moving pieces and interconnecting them in more interesting ways.
And something that I really want to give this movie credit for is respecting the audience. Because I've watched a lot of mystery stuff throughout the years, and the things with movies and television shows, a lot of them have this habit of holding the audience's hand like a toddler and guiding them.
Yeah.
And this movie doesn't do that. It respects the audience, and it has fun. It has fun.
Yeah, and I think it can do that because it kind of covers its bases, because it has several layers to what's going on. why don't we just go through the plot itself, and you can kind of see that. Though major spoilers, of course. I would say that this is one of the movies like if you listen to us talk about Fury Road and then watch the movie, it's not really going to ruin your experience. It's such a visual affair. For something like this, it will affect the experience. Not ruin it necessarily, but it will change the experience. I came into this knowing something about the movie, watching some of the scenes beforehand, and Fox didn't, and we had different experiences, though we both had ultimately very positive ones, obviously. But it will change things. So
I didn't even know that this was a mystery.
Really?
Yeah, I knew nothing about Knives Out.
That's right.
I knew that it involved white people bickering, and that's it.
White people bickering is a very large amount of this movie. So for real, if what we said so far interests you, just watch it. It's a great movie. It's really well done. Watch it, and then you can come back and listen to us talk about it. But for the people who don't care or have already seen it, kind of like a quick recap of the plot and kind of showing how the different layers are. So it follows the Thrombys. The Thrombys are the family. The grandfather, Harlan Thrombey, is a murder mystery best-selling novelist. Has made so many of these fucking murder mysteries. Like, I think it was like hundreds he's made. He just cranks this fucking shit out. And they've all been bestsellers, and they've all done super well. And he has like millions and millions of dollars. He's so fucking rich because of this. And his family, there's a couple of notable members of the family.
All of them terrible.
All of them terrible. Every single person in this family, except for Harlan, is terrible. He's not great, but he's not nearly as bad as the rest. But there is, I don't remember a lot of the people's names. I'm not good with names. Do you remember a lot of the names?
Funny enough, the only name I remember is Meg.
Right. But she's also not like super important to the plot.
No.
She has her place, but she doesn't have like she's not like a main.
She's a granddaughter?
Yes.
And she was the okayest at first, but
Then she stabbed the protagonist in the back.
Yes.
And it's a whole thing. We'll get into that in a moment. Okay, so there's Linda, who is Harlan's daughter. I think she's the oldest.
I believe she is the oldest, yes.
Yeah, and then there was his son who died, but before he died, he married Joni. Joni's the kind of daughter-in-law to Harlan.
Right, she's kind of like the hippie-ish one.
She's like a new age hippie. Linda is a very serious and terse woman who she kind of always got like a stick up her ass kind of thing. She's just very smart though, and she can like dial in on people really well. And then there's the youngest son, Walt, who runs Harlan's publishing company, and it's just kind of like he's getting cash from that, but he's not really doing much with it. He's just kind of passively running it.
Out of the children, he has the most daddy issues, and that's saying something.
That's saying quite a bit.
Because Linda has daddy issues.
Linda has some pretty severe daddy issues. Linda married Richard Drysdale. Richard is...
He has daddy-in-law issues. There's a clear difference.
Yes. Richard is just... He's just kind of like... He has his place, but he's almost kind of like on the periphery of the family. Like, he's connected, but nobody really directly cares about him. It's all just about, like, that he's married to Linda.
That's really all he's got going for him.
He is the father of Ransom. Ransom is played by Chris Evans and is, I think, the best character in this movie.
Yeah.
Ransom's great. He's horrible. He's a horrible person, but Ransom's great. Walt married Donna and had Meg as their daughter. That's their deal. Meg is kind of like
young, college aged. She's nicer than a lot of the family, but when it comes down to like money, she folds and betrays our main character.
Yes. Oh no, I'm wrong. Sorry.
Oh.
Meg is Joni's daughter.
Meg is Joni's daughter.
Meg is
that's right.
Joni's daughter.
Right. Walt and Donna have the little neo-Nazi kid.
That's right. The little neo-Nazi kid, who is played by Jaden Martell. Jaden, I am so sorry for the roles that they have been pitching you. You've been in some great movies, but you have been portraying shit-ass characters. You're doing a great job. He's a great actor. I feel so fucking sorry for him.
I don't know who that is.
Jaden Martell is in a lot of shit. He was in It. He was one of the kids in It.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
He's Bill in It. The Book of Henry, which is a really, really dog shit movie.
Was he the little Henry kid?
Yes, he was the Henry kid.
Oh, it's so sad to get typecasted at such a young age, buddy.
Yeah, the young asshole. It's real sad for you.
You know what? You do it well. Good on you.
You do your best. I don't blame you. Anyways.
Yeah.
So Walt has a little neo-Nazi as a son, which gets brought up and talked about a little bit and condemned by even the other horrible members of the family. But it just kind of goes unresolved because it's not really relevant.
It really is funny to see the other terrible people condemning the little neo-Nazi kid.
And then immediately turn on Marta, the protagonist, who is Harlan's nurse, and also an immigrant.
Well, they just say some awful, awful shit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So going into the actual plot. So this is the family. Harlan is pretty old. He's in his late 80s at this point.
I want to say 85.
85. And it was his birthday. He had a birthday party, and at the end of the birthday party, Marta, his nurse, gives him some medication, and he's also been taking some morphine for an injury. And Marta accidentally overdoses him on morphine and doesn't have the antidote to cure him. This is shown right at the start of the movie. So Harlan, to save Marta from, being condemned as a murderer and having her family get deported, Harlan takes his own life and concocts this murder mystery wacko scenario for her.
He walks her through how to cover it up, and that's amazing. Including
a false window in the wall, and a couple other things, and he goes full murder mystery plot and concocts this.
He has her dress up to look like him.
Be seen in the house, so people think that Harlan is alive later than he actually is. Mm-hmm. And then do a whole so Marta does this plan, and then in the aftermath, even though the police think it's a suicide, a famous detective, Benoit Blanc, played by Danielle Craig, shows up at the house and has been hired to investigate the death. And Blanc doesn't know who hired him. He was hired anonymously. And Marta is trying to avoid, his suspicion. But the problem with Marta is she pukes when she lies.
It's just straight up
projectile vomit. It is over the top.
It is hilarious.
Yeah. And she can't help it. It's a physiological reaction to her lying. So, and then Blanc kind of conscripts her into solving the murder with him. So she has to navigate this through the whole scenario. So that's the one layer. It's we know what happened, and we know the wild cover up that happened, and we are following Marta and trying to and we're rooting for her to kind of like get out of this mess.
Cover up the accidental murder.
Yes. And then when the will is read, Marta is given Harlan's entire estate, all of his funds, all of his everything.
Assets, publishing company, money, it's all hers.
Taken entirely from the family, given to her. And this was because of a bunch of spats that each of the kids had with Harlan for various different reasons. Richard's having an affair, and Walt is kind of like wasting his life away instead of actually like writing his own stories, and Harlan looks down on that. And Ransom is a fucking asshole who is doing nothing with his life. And and Joni is stealing from him. Joni is defrauding him and has stolen $100,000 from him already.
I feel bad for Meg because she's like the one person who hasn't done anything.
Right, she hasn't done anything directly, and she's also kind of suffering from this. And in response to this, the entire family, who up until that point, they have all been like really like supportive of Marta. I mean, like, oh, you're a part of the family and we'll help you out and all this other stuff. They immediately fucking turn on her. They swarm her. They like yell at her. They go one step away from like beating the shit out of her. And then they conspire to like fuck with her family. And Meg tells them about her family being immigrants because the rest of the family didn't know. That's the stabbing in the back that Meg did. So that's another thread, is Marta's interactions with the family. And then the final thread is that as the story goes on, Marta gets a letter from somebody who knows about what she did and is blackmailing her to get some of the inheritance. She turns to Ransom to help with this. And Ransom being like, fuck the rest of the family, I'm in. And so they go through this whole thing and they try to find this blackmailer, and one of the assistants in the house is the one who's blackmailing Marta. And at the blackmailing meeting, the assistant is there, but she's dying. She's dying of a morphine overdose. Like, somebody's trying to set Marta up. But Marta calls the ambulance, and they rush her to the hospital. And then Benoit Blanc goes through the whole thing where at that point he's found out kind of what's happened, and he explains this whole thing about how Ransom was told before anybody else that Harlan's will was changed and that all the money was going towards Marta, and he was fucking pissed. And so Ransom swapped the morphine and the medicine in the vials to cause Marta to accidentally overdose him. And he also took the medicinal antidote for morphine overdose from her bag to kind of set her up. But Marta, having accidentally switched the vials, she didn't do anything wrong. She actually didn't harm Harlan in any way. And Harlan killed himself without needing to. Though it is unfortunate, it also kind of seems like Harlan was kind of checked out. Like, he was ready to be done with this.
He was not in a good place.
Yeah, he wasn't great. So when Marta tells Ransom about what she did and that about the blackmailing, Ransom realizes that his plan has been accidentally foiled, and so comes along to try to set Marta up again. Because there was a blood toxicology report that would show originally that there was a morphine overdose, but now will show that there was no overdose, and now Marta is innocent no matter what. And so
she'd be able to inherit everything.
Yes. And so Ransom destroys the toxicology report and also the blood work lab itself. He throws a fucking Molotov cocktail in there and lights it up. But the assistant, what is her name? Fran. When Fran found out about what Ransom was doing, she found out about Ransom, not Marta. She was going to blackmail Ransom and had a photocopy of the blood work hidden away. And Ransom went to a blackmail meeting with her and killed her, or overdosed her then. And she was going to die, but Marta tried to save her life. Fran ends up dying either way, unfortunately. And then Blanc finds the toxicology copy and realizes that Marta is innocent, does, kind of clears this all up, and Ransom goes to jail. So that's the third kind of layer in this movie. And that's what the last 30 minutes is all about. And I think having those three layers of interactions and information and dynamics is what allows this movie to respect the audience's attention, because if somebody isn't keeping up with the lower level, the stuff with Ransom and what's really happening, they can still follow along Marta's whole journey.
Mm-hmm.
And if people aren't fully paying attention to any of the actual murder mystery stuff, for some reason, there's a lot of juicy drama just in the family dynamics. There's a lot of different ways to approach viewing the story, and as such, it kind of lets everybody be involved in some way, and then Blanc kind of just lays it all out at the end. But if you are paying attention, and you are figuring this out, then you get to see if your theories are confirmed at the end, and you get this little oh yeah, I'm smart kind of pat on the back. So it's really covering all its bases.
It's a really great reveal at the end.
It's an
the
amazing
murderer reveal.
Yeah.
This movie, above everything else, it's fun, it's engaging.
It's very over the top.
It is. It's very theatrical.
Absolutely.
And I say that with the utmost love.
We love theater.
One of my favorite shots is Linda is reading the letter that her father left her about her husband's cheating.
Yeah.
And she looks up from the letter in shock, and we see the husband. And as he's realizing, oh shit, she's read the letter.
Yeah.
And then the next time we see the husband,
he's got a black eye.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's great.
Just those little details.
That's a great shot. The will reading is an amazing scene.
That's fantastic.
It has very little to do with the murder mystery, but it's my favorite scene in the movie. It's this initial everybody's gathered around right before the will reading. Ransom told people that he was people had deduced that Ransom was not going to be a part of the will anymore, and were giving him shit about it, and there was a whole back and forth, and the will reading comes up, and everybody's excited and listening in. There's a lot of smiles all around, and even Ransom is sitting there, and he's kind of sitting in the back away from everybody else, and he's just kind of staring down the will reader, and the will starts to get read out, and it's a surprisingly short will, and it starts to get read out, and then it's all my assets, liquid and otherwise, I hereby bequeath to Marta Cabrera, and then it's a fucking pin drops. It's everybody just immediately goes silent, and Ransom just gets this giant ass grin on his face, and he's rattling off all the rest of this shit that's going to Marta, and after a bunch of it, Linda just who has up to this point has been super nice to Marta and been really supportive, just turns to her and goes you little bitch. It just gets really in her face. Fucking Jamie Lee Curtis is amazing, and just they swarm her and they get so aggressive, and she starts yelling. The policemen who are investigating Harlan's death are there, and she screams at them to leave, and they don't. They just take us they don't have to leave. So they just kind of they're just there, kind of like not saying anything. She's just like screaming for them to get out. And she's like, "We are the Thrombies, damn it! This is still our house!" And then everybody fucking freezes. And then she slowly turns back to the will reader, and he's like, "Oh, sorry. And the house at 325 Dearborn Drive, I hereby bequeath to Marta Cabrera." And then everybody, and then there's just like, "Oh God," kind of thing from everybody. And
that's such a good moment.
Yeah, and then Blanc is just like Blanc addresses everybody. He's like, "I think everybody just needs to cool it down." And he turns to Marta and is like, "I bid you run." And she just fucking just like leaves. Oh, I love that scene so much. There's a great moment when she exits the house and they're still starting to, they kind of catch up to her and start to swarm her again, and it goes from a steady shot to a handheld shaky cam in that moment, which is a great touch, and it's so good. I love this movie. This movie's great. This movie's wonderful.
I like how much, like, there's a bit of deconstruction of the general murder mystery in this.
Oh, absolutely.
And I really appreciate that. I also, appreciate the subtle, not so subtle commentary.
Right.
Like, these rich people are, they're terrible.
They're all terrible, and they're all terrible in their own unique ways.
And the only good person is Marta.
Because she's not rich, she comes from a very poor immigrant family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's the big reason, is because she is not from that world, and
she doesn't even really want all the wealth and everything that she was just left.
She is willing, and she feels so guilty about getting it that she considers giving it back to everybody, but she ultimately doesn't because of how horrible they are.
Mm-hmm. I mean, really, the only reason she doesn't turn herself into the police immediately
is because Harlan begged her not to, and set up this whole thing to try to protect her.
Partially for him, and then partially because her mother is undocumented. She doesn't want to risk having her mother deported.
Yeah, but it's never about her. It's never about her own freedom. And she even, like, when she doesn't realize at the end that she's innocent, she actually gets very close to turning herself in. And Blanc, once he figures it out, has to stop her mid-sentence.
She is really dead set on turning herself in the moment that she sees Fran, and she has two choices. She can either leave her there to die alone or try to call in help and try to save her life. And she
Which
chooses.
would immediately implicate her and send her to prison. Like, she immediately chooses to help her. She doesn't care about her own, like, freedom at all. She wants to help others.
She has, and really, truly, she has no other option in her mind. She just wants to be a good person and help others.
Yeah. There's a lot of other great, like, little things about this movie. The state trooper Wagner being a fanboy of Harlan's books. Great Nana Winetta. Oh, man, she's great. She is... I don't even know how to properly describe her.
She is an old woman. She's Harlan's mother. And if you remember, he was about 85. No one knows how old she is.
Yeah.
She hardly ever speaks.
And when she does speak, it's confusing and unintelligible and all this other stuff.
It's fantastic.
She's wonderful. There's a lot of great interactions. Like, all of the actors are just, it's a competition of who can chew the scene more. And they're all trying their hardest. Like, it's a close fucking race. I think ultimately the reason why I like Chris Evans the most is because I think he does succeed in those group scenes. I think he does stand out the most. But Jamie Lee Curtis is right behind him, and fucking Michael Shannon is right behind her. Like, it is so close. Yeah, and the others, Don Johnson does pretty good. And the few scenes that Christopher Plummer is in the movie, he does a great job. But I think ultimately Chris Evans does really just kind of, he cinches it for me. He is such a great and dynamic presence.
It's really great to see him get good roles where he can really show that he is a good actor.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's fantastic for him.
It's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful.
I think everyone did a fantastic job, honestly.
Yeah, Ana de Armas played Marta. Also did a great job. She's not as like
Bombastic.
She's definitely not that bombastic. She doesn't really chew the scenery like the others, but she does a lot of subtle acting that I really liked.
Mm-hmm.
And she really embodies her role super well. All of these fucking actors are great.
Like, this was definitely a top tier movie.
Daniel Craig was silly. He played it very silly, and I think it was good.
So much fun in this role.
He's been Bond for a fucking decade, and he's like, I'm gonna do whatever now.
He found a role here that was just perfect for him. Beautiful. He gets to be just a goofy little guy.
Yeah, just a goofy little Southern detective. The thickest fucking Southern accent you've ever heard.
Love him. Absolutely adore him.
Amazing. I could talk about this movie forever. I could talk about this movie and all of the little details of this movie fucking forever. And I won't. We gotta wrap up. We gotta get to our remakes. But like, it's so good. It's so good.
I would like to take a moment to say cinematography. Really lovely. The
Absolutely.
set design. Beautiful. That rich house. I want to live there.
Yeah.
I want to live there and maybe murder a man there.
Well, again, any sort of crimes that we allude to, these are all jokes. None of this is serious. We're always lying. We're always lying in everything we're saying. So don't believe in a single word we say.
I feel like you have to give that disclaimer from me more than yourself.
Oh, absolutely.
In fact, only from me, I think.
Yeah, I've never confessed to a crime on a thing that we're gonna make public.
I'm not confessing to a crime. I'm merely stating that should it come up, I'd like to commit a crime.
So we're never gonna live in a giant ass country townhouse now. So
I don't think
to avoid that.
I don't think that was ever in the cards. I don't think that was ever the style of house we were going for.
Yeah, probably not. But yeah, let's just jump right into those remakes.
Shall I start? Since it's just easier to get me out of the way.
Yeah, sure thing.
Everyone will be surprised to know that this is not going to be a long one. I know usually I go for maybe 10 to 20 minutes.
Yeah, this is surprising.
Yeah. Sometimes I can be more concise.
Sometimes. Rarely.
That was mean, but also accurate, so, So this has been the hardest movie to remake so far. Plot-wise and character-wise, everything is just so right. It's competent, engaging, and I don't really know what to change. So what I'm changing is the style. I said before, and I'll say again, that there is some great cinematography in this movie. Nothing about this movie was subpar. Nothing was lacking. But, fuck it. Let's go as bombastic as we can. Let's film different parts of the movie in different styles.
Oh, that could be interesting, yeah.
And there's so much in the mystery genres that you can play around with, from the old black and white classics to all the subgenres of film noir.
Right.
So this movie starts off as a straight mystery. Man seems to have killed himself, but famous detective goes, This we film like a classic Sherlock Holmes adaptation, full black and white. Maybe add some elements of gothic horror, especially with outside shots of the house and when we introduce each of the family members. I wanted something very, very striking, like the old dark house, which is probably a reference you don't get.
Nah, nothing. I got nothing on that one.
Well, if you know, you know, but you can just guess based on the title. So then the movie veers into crime movie territory, right? Where we're following Marta trying not to get caught. So we get a shift in style. I'm thinking color starts bleeding back into the film. We get more of the neo-noir flair of the original movie, but crank it up to the extreme. Really extreme colors and lighting add an air of surreality to the mix. Film Marta like she's in Suspiria. specifically the original one, which is another reference I realize you do not get.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
It's the ballet movie.
Does not help.
Yeah, you know what? I can't explain it here. But have you ever seen any of those like 70s Italian horror movies where the lighting's all weird and colorful and it's all fucked up?
Give yourself a second. Remember who I am as a person, and then ask that question to yourself, and you will have your answer.
Maybe?
No.
Okay.
Babe, I haven't seen any movie from the 70s.
Wait, shit, really?
At least not that I know of. The earliest that I've seen is 80s.
Don't worry, everyone. I'm gonna rectify
Wait, was Star
this.
Wars 70s?
Star Wars was early 80s. Well, did it start in the late 70s? It could very possibly have.
One sec, y'all. 1977 for the first movie.
It was 77, okay.
Yeah, so technically I have seen a movie from the 70s.
A single movie.
Yeah, there's probably more, but not ones that I would recognize as being from the 70s.
Whew, boy, I have a lot of work to do, just to fill in the cinematic gaps.
It's not really a gap. It's like my cinematic knowledge starts at the 80s and moves forward. Like, I haven't seen 60s or 50s movies either. I haven't seen movies before that.
I made you watch the original Blob.
Oh, that's fair. But, like, that would be the one then.
Mm-hmm. Slowly but surely, I'm introducing you to, older classics. I'm going to use the term classic loosely because some of the movies I have in mind to show you are not.
Right, we're getting off topic.
That's what I'm good at.
Yeah, well,
okay.
We're doing a thing.
All right, well, let's shoot this like a giallo movie is what I'm saying. It doesn't have to have as much tits and ass. Could, not saying no, but it doesn't need it. Just the coloring is what we're going for. So every flashback needs to be in an exaggerated film noir style, full black and white with heavy lighting and shadows. Depending on the flashback, maybe do, another splash of color on something important. And I realize saying that, it kind of feels like the Sin City movie, which I don't love. But you can make that in modern times without it looking like Sin City.
Yeah, that came at a really unfortunate time in history where, like, effects, like, for what they were trying to do, the skills and technology just wasn't 100% there. It was, like, right before they could properly achieve it.
Like, it was better than the Spirit movie, but not necessarily... It doesn't necessarily hold up nowadays. I know a lot of people do love the movie, and it's fine, but, like, we can do so much better now.
Right.
So, at the end, when we're back to the whodunits territory, have the colors slowly start fading away, except for Marta. Maybe Ransom as well until the final confrontation between them, and he's taken away, and, his color starts fading too as he disappears from frame. I want to go heavy on the colors, heavy on the shadows. Just, really heavily stylize this.
That would be very interesting, yeah.
Then, for the final shot where Marta is overlooking the entire family, I think we need a mix match of things. Elements of gothic horror or pulp with heavy fog starting to overtake the screen. The only color is coming from Marta, while the family is shot in those heavy shadows again. Like, you get symbolism, you get craft, you get beauty. I don't know, I'm a slut for heavy shadows like that. And that's how I would remake Knives Out. Like I said, not as long or as intricate as I usually get, but really the only place I could focus on changing was the style itself. Like, everything else, from the characters, the actors, the plot beats, they just work so well. And I think a movie as fun as this deserves really fun stylization too.
Yeah, for sure. I think that would have been really nice. there's a lot about the film's visual style and cinematography that's already great, but I think having those little extra touches and that little extra flair would be very appropriate for the genre that it's playing, and I definitely think that would be a great idea.
Yeah, and like the building blocks for this, they're already there. Like you said, the cinematography. Like it would be so easy to build up upon that. Really make it stylized.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot that you could do to just like little tweaks here and there to kind of like make this definitely very visually interesting. So I think that's a really good approach.
Thank you. That's all I have. So
That's wow. Yeah, that is a lot shorter than normal. It's understandable, especially with this movie. There's not a lot to change. My change, I would say, I went in a slightly different direction. I didn't do anything in terms of style. I did want to change one story element that is subtle, but I think is pervasive. And that ultimately comes down to... So the film shows like several red herrings with the different children, like the like Joni's fight, Ransom's fight. Ransom's fight is not a red herring, but you have these like different encounters at the party, and that all kind of hint towards different characters being the one to have killed Harlan.
Yes.
Harlan Thrombey. So there's different scenes and like arguments and whatnot. Harlan confronts 4 different people, either like the day before or on the day of the party, and gives them all potential motive for killing him. But about 30-40 minutes in, once we know that Marta is the one who's like who accidentally like fucked up and did all this stuff, all of the other red herring stuff is immediately dropped. And on a surface level, it's understandable. It's like, oh, we've got our answer. So we don't need these other things. And then like, oh, the twist is, oh, that wasn't actually the answer, and one of these was actually real. But I think that doesn't fully work at the end of the day, because the scenes with everybody else tend to, like, they just stop mattering. The only one that continues to matter after we know Marta is like the one to focus on is Ransom, which kind of gives the ball game away, you know? Like, there's so much more focus put on him than anybody else that it's like, if it's not Marta, then it's gotta be him. And I think the movie just barely gets away with it because it makes us believe so hard that Marta is the guilty party. However, you can fix this. And it would be fixed in one important way. After Marta fucks up and is about to start the whole process of like leaving and then sneaking back in and doing all this stuff, as she's getting ready, but she's out of view, one of the other kids storms up to his room and has an argument with him. A very short, like 1 to 2 minute yelling match that only Marta hears. And she doesn't know exactly who it is, what they said. And this is ultimately a red herring. And it could be revealed that it's like the youngest kid. I can't remember his name.
I don't remember his name either.
That would probably be the youngest kid. They're having like a follow up to the thing at the party, because that wasn't actually a fight. When he says like, I'm firing you from the publishing company so you can have your own thing, it wasn't actually a fight. So it would make sense for him to come back, have this 1 to 2 minute thing of like yelling. It's like, I can't believe you quit. And maybe he's a little drunk. He's like, I can't believe you fired me. This is so important to me. Whatever. And we can kind of reveal that he's the one yelling. But Marta is the only one that hears this, and then she's in the middle of this thing, so she has to leave and come back and do all this other stuff. She's too busy to do anything about it. And when she comes back after, Guy's gone and Harlan's dead. So there's a little bit of, like, a little question of, did he kill Harlan, or did Harlan kill himself? Everybody's talking about Harlan killed himself, but this detective is saying that Harlan didn't, but we know that like he would have died anyways because of Marta. But is this his other person? We're not sure. It's probably Marta, but like, you know, and then you have this like kind of question bouncing around. And then as the film goes on, we're like, like, you could be like, is Marta actually the guilty party here? And then you have this kind of like notion of like somebody else could have been the person at fault. That is the foot in the door that leads to anybody else. And so it's like, and then if we know that it's the youngest son, it becomes between Ransom and the youngest son as to who the real killer is. If we don't know who the yelling is from, then it opens it up to more people. And I think that would work best for when we're figuring out who is actually at fault at the end. And the rest of the movie would play it the same, because Marta isn't going to tell the detective about this fight, because the only reason she would hear about it is by revealing her whole thing that she did.
Yeah?
So she can't say anything about the fight. So the rest of the movie would go as is. And she would just be kind of being like, was somebody else actually at fault? I'm not sure. And then when Marta finally tells Blanc about everything, and Blanc is like, and confirms that like it wasn't like somebody else who slit his throat. Like, we know it was suicide. Then Marta's like, oh, I guess it was me. And then Ransom is actually the bad guy. I think this could work really well, of like just having that one little bit, that one like the one thought in the back of Marta's head where she's like, am I actually at fault here? I probably am, but I don't know for certain. I think that would have put so much more into this movie and made those red herrings actually feel like something.
Yeah, I definitely see where you're coming with this. I think that's a really intriguing idea. Especially, I think it would work best with the youngest of Harlan's children.
Yeah, but even it would either be the best with the youngest or we don't know. And I would lean more towards we don't know, so we get more use of all of the red herrings. But also, it would draw suspicion away from Ransom, because Ransom is the only one not at the house at that point in time. He is the only one who couldn't be the person yelling at Harlan. Of course, that doesn't matter at the end of the day.
Right.
But it draws our attention away from him, so when he is revealed and all this other stuff comes into place, it makes sense.
We paint the red herrings even redder.
Right.
Okay, yeah. I definitely like this idea. I think that's a nifty little change. I think it really does add just a little extra bit to connect, the whodunit part to the crime movie part.
Right. And keeping that through line, because there is the twist of like, there's the twist and then the untwist, which is like the special part of this movie. This change wouldn't ruin that, but it would allow people who are paying attention a stronger through line through all of it. Because as the movie is right now, theoretically, you could guess that Ransom is the killer, but it's not really feasible. You don't really get enough clues to know for certain. A lot of the final clues are like given in the exposition at the end. So it's like, it's not great. Having this could make that work better, because you are drawn to somebody else being the murderer anyways. And so you're looking for clues to exonerate Marta. I think it would work pretty well. I think it would be a nice little thing. I think it wouldn't even change much of anything of the movie. And I think it would be really nice. That's really all I got about that. It's the only change I could possibly see for this movie. Anything else would ruin or sully other good parts of the movie. This is the only thing I can think of that would leave the vast majority of this movie untouched.
That really is the thing with this movie. Knives Out is just so tightly written.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I think these are some solid changes. Little things, really little things. Well, I guess changing the whole style of a movie isn't a little thing.
Not quite a little thing. It's not a structural change, though. It is.
Right.
It's just visual style. So you wouldn't you could that's something that could be done potentially, though you wouldn't actually want to do this if you were planning this out from the beginning. But you could potentially through post do some of these kind of like visual edits that you are proposing. Like somebody could fucking take the movie that's online and do these edits to them. So the movie as a whole wouldn't really change in that kind of way. Though, of course, if you were planning to do this from the beginning, there would be a lot of like infrastructural things you would do to help make that process look a lot better in the end result.
Right.
So yeah, that's really all we got. This is a bit shorter of an episode, not too much shorter, so I think I'm cool with ending it now. But like, if there's anything else you want to talk about before we do,
let's see, anything else? Oh, here's a fun fact for you. So I was looking this movie up online. A lot of people are really horny for Chris Evans in the sweater he's wearing.
I can understand that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I swear to God, I thought you were going to say people are horny for Jamie Lee Curtis. As well they should.
Well, goddamn right they are. Goddamn right I am.
Jamie Lee Curtis is amazing.
I mean, she is an icon for a good goddamn reason.
Yeah. Very, like 100% trans ally too, which is great.
Yep, that too.
Is it trans daughter or trans son?
I believe it's a trans daughter.
Trans daughter, that's what I thought. And recently, like, had some like specific things, like people were like targeting her trans daughter, and like she got up and was, you know, like, fuck you to all of them and whatnot and all this stuff. I don't remember the situation specifically. So if this is all wrong, I'll just cut this from the edit. It doesn't matter.
I mean, either way, good on her. She's a good person, still gorgeous. That never stopped being a thing.
Yeah.
And also, hey, Chris Evans, if you want to keep on wearing those hot fisherman sweaters.
Steamy dock vibes.
All right. I think we'll end it on that note.
Yeah, I don't think... We've already gone on so long about how much we love this movie. Definitely do watch it if you haven't yet. It is great. It's wonderful. Ryan Johnson, if you're somehow listening to this and you thought some of our ideas were interesting and want to get us involved in a future Knives Out movie, just hit us up. Twitter's dying, so I don't know. Email us. We have an email, right?
We do.
Do you remember it?
We do.
Isn't it, did you one the number one better at yahoo.com?
Yeah. I don't know if it's you or did ya.
I will edit myself saying what the email is around this part. Did ya, Y-A, one, the word one, better at yahoo.com. So get in contact with us, you know, and we'd love to talk shop. If you were offended by our changes, I'm very sorry. We do love this movie.
I apologize for nothing.
We did love this movie, though, and we both deeply respect you as a filmmaker, and can't wait for the next one. Glass Onion's coming out pretty soon.
I mean, I have no concept of time, but I'm sure.
I think in the next couple months. There was a trailer recently for it.
Oh, there was?
Yeah, I'll show it to you after. It just follows Benoit Blanc. It's just an entirely new mystery. It's a murder mystery. It's a murder mystery party where the host is like an obscenely rich guy who is going to pretend to die, and then they're going to do a murder mystery about it, but then somebody actually dies at the murder mystery party.
This is so delightful. Good sir, you know exactly what my heart desires.
Yeah, we're gonna be watching that when it comes out. So yeah, we're really excited. And yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed, and we'll see y'all next time.
Yeah, absolutely. Bye.
Bye-bye.